going live. All right, everybody, we are live here. Good evening to you all. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello.
I apologize for the all-male panel this evening.
I'm not a man.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
When I'm discussing women's issues.
Well, we invited a cisgendered woman on the program tonight, and she accepted before realizing that she had a prior commitment. Is that how
she identifies? I thought she identifies as a snowman.
No.
Oh.
She's full on.
Oh, okay.
But maybe she'll call in, excuse me, on Sunday. But thank you guys for watching. This will be, of course, up on the YouTube channel, and I'll probably put this out on the audio podcast tomorrow as well. Obviously, big news today. The Supreme Court announced their formal, official decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. And one of the reasons I was hoping that our friend would join us is because I have a difficult time figuring out where to start this conversation, but I guess I'll start here. You know, when I was putting together the stream, I put in the show notes, I put our plugs in the show notes, right? Join the Substack, the Patreon, blah, blah, blah. And I was thinking to myself, maybe tonight for this video, I should put a little plug in for one of these advocacy groups, right? For people to chip in and donate or get involved. But then I started thinking to myself, well, which one of these advocacy groups should I suggest people donate to? And then I realized that this is part of the problem, that I'm as pissed off at most of them as I am at anybody. We interviewed some people from our local Planned Parenthood chapter way back when Richie and I started the show in the spring of 2019. And there were two lovely women there. And one of them even said on camera regarding the ACA and healthcare as it pertains to reproductive rights that they, meaning the establishment, flipped Obama. Old black lady said they flipped Obama, meaning they got to him, right? Mm-hmm. But they didn't want to go any further than that. You could tell she was sort of felt lousy about the fact that she let that slip. The point that I'm making here is that organizations like Planned Parenthood, NARAL, they have just been way too far up the ass of the Democratic Party, which is completely fucking useless. And they are not useless by accident. They are useless by design. Barack Obama and Michelle put out a long statement this afternoon in response to this ruling.
Well, that took some balls.
Yeah. This is a guy who promised Planned Parenthood in January of 2008 during the primary, it was June. It was as the primary was wrapping up, that he would, within his first 100 days, codify Roe versus Wade.
Yep.
And after the first 100 days went by and he did not do that, he was asked about it, and he said, quote, it is not our top legislative priority. Just a complete lie. He had a 60-seat supermajority in the Senate, the House on his side, a 70% favorability rating, didn't do it. And why don't I just actually play, because I was going to summarize his opinion here, but while we're here, we may as well just actually play what I am talking about here. We're flying a bit by the seat of our pants tonight, folks. This is an impromptu program, so we didn't have a chance to do a sort of formal prep session. The Freedom of Choice Act is the law that we are talking about here. So here is Barack Obama. I may as well just play both of these. Saying he will sign it into law when he becomes president. So here's candidate Obama, highlights from his address to Planned Parenthood during the 2008 campaign.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you.
The lion piece of shit.
Thank you.
Vote for me.
At a crossroads right now in America.
At a crossroads.
We have to move this country forward. This election is not just about playing defense. It's also about playing offense.
Right.
There will always be people, many of goodwill, who do not share my view on the issue of choice. On this fundamental issue, I will not yield, and Planned Parenthood will not yield. When there are real wars being fought abroad, they would have us fight culture wars here at home. But I am absolutely convinced that culture wars are just so 90s. Their days are growing dark. It is time to turn the page. We want a new day here in America.
Pathetic, wasn't it?
We're tired about arguing about
that turned out totally
the same
true.
old stuff.
He had vision.
As you were talking about earlier, the recent Bush Supreme Court's decision really took away critically important decisions from women and put them in the hands of politicians. And as a result of this, we're expecting and have already seen so much anti-choice legislation at the state level. What would you do at the federal level, not only to ensure access to abortion, but to make sure that the judicial nominees that you will inevitably be able to pick are true to the core tenets of Roe v. Wade?
Well, the first thing I'd do as president is sign the Freedom of Choice Act. That's the first thing that I'd do.
Okay, so the Freedom of Choice Act would guarantee reproductive rights nationwide. We've gotten into this before. I don't want to rehash the same themes on every time we talk about this, but basically the Democrats could even do it now, which would basically render this ruling irrelevant. They could sign a federal law saying that reproductive care is legal in all 50 states, which would start this whole process over. The right would then have to sue the government in order to overturn that law or render that law unconstitutional, which would be a very difficult case to argue because the Supreme Court now, in its argument today, said that actually, no, states have the right to regulate abortion. So if they're arguing now that states have the right to regulate abortion, how could they then argue that the federal government does not have the right to regulate abortion? They couldn't. They couldn't. Now, the Freedom of Choice Act would have solved this problem 2009, what's that, almost 13 years ago. 13 years ago, as of the time he made that speech. So that was promised. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to sign that into law, so this is squared away.
Well, they're saying in their argument, which if you're going to take them at their word that, this is really built around their interpretation of what the Constitution actually says and what it actually means and what it actually doesn't say. They're saying this should go back to the people's elected representatives. So yes, if the federal government passed such a law,
they'd have to honor it.
That should be in keeping with their interpretation of the Constitution.
Of course. Of course. There's no argument. And for all the people who say, well, they're right-wing ideologues, they would strike it down anyway, not necessarily. If they were right-wing ideologues who were just doing this all by fiat, they would have struck down the ACA. They had a chance to do that. The Amy Coney Barrett court had a chance to do that. Both Barrett and Kavanaugh voted to uphold the ACA. So yes, these judges are right-wing, but they do not just rule by fiat. They do adhere to a constitutional. Well, yeah, Thomas does. He was one of two. But, even Kavanaugh, even Amy Coney Barrett, adhered to some sort of interpretation of the Constitution. This is the problem with the court, which actually we'll get to this later. I don't want to.
I've said it before. I mean, Thomas is a disgrace. He's a disgrace. He has no business being on that court. He actually suggested that we should now revisit contraception
and gay marriage. Yeah, no, of course, absolutely.
I mean, he's just not even. Even just on the level of being a serious person, he does not belong on that court.
No, he's a goon. I mean, he's a goon. Absolutely. But let's revisit Barack Obama after his first 100 days. He was asked, hey, what happened to the FOCA, the Freedom of Choice Act?
Niall,
what's the update on
not
that?
Only am I not a worshiper of Almighty God, I've got a goat tied to a stake in my bedroom that I got to get to after this after this segment, and I've got the little curvy knife.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Let's hear what he says when asked for a follow-up.
Beelzebub.
All right. Let's see what Obama says when he's asked to follow up on the Freedom of Choice Act.
The Freedom of Choice Act is not my highest legislative priority.
Oh.
I believe that women should have the right to choose, but I think that the most important thing we can do to tamp down some of the anger surrounding this issue is to focus on those areas that we can agree on, and that's where I'm going to focus.
I wonder why they can't win these battles. We're going to focus on the areas where we can agree on, because it'll be too divisive to protect abortion rights, right? This is another theme of this conversation, as you'll see. Like I said, I'm doing double duty tonight because I have to be a wizard at the board here because we have a lot of graphics, a lot of exhibits as we build our case here this evening. Speaking of, reaching out.
I want to bring on Niall. I feel like if we don't have like a raving, drooling Jesus freak, we're not representing all sides of the issue tonight.
Oh, is there someone in the chat? I can't even see the chat, man. I got like 10 screens open.
Well, that's what I was responding to. We got someone in the chat who, if you take the stance that you do not have an almighty God to worship, then you are an unbeliever of almighty God. And I was explaining that I worship Beelzebub, actually.
Oh, so I didn't know what the hell you were talking about.
I mean, good improv training. You went with it anyway.
Yeah, always say yes, no matter what.
Even
if I have no idea what you're talking about, always say yes. I have like 8 screens open because I'm doing the board here. So, look, I talked about Planned Parenthood, NARAL, Obama, right? Who have the Democrats been worshiping this past month? Whose ass have they just been crawling up this past month more than anybody else? Liz Cheney. The Honorable Liz Cheney. I disagree with Liz Cheney about many things, but she is a person of honor for seeking 9 days probation for Donald Trump for January 6th, right? Whatever the fuck she's, looking to do here. George Takei. Liz Cheney is a person of honor who I disagree. Here's Liz Cheney's tweet today. I have always been strongly pro-life. Today's ruling by the Supreme Court returns power to the states and the people of the states to address the issue of abortion under state law. Oh, look, it featured my response to Rosie O'Donnell. Here's fucking useless moron Rosie O'Donnell. Just when I started to admire you. ... And I tweeted, I had to reply to Rosie there. I said, to be fair, Rosie, it's not her fault. You're so fucking dumb.
And it's not.
You're so fucking stupid. This is Liz Cheney, whose father, by the way, stole an election using thuggish, strong-arm tactics. You ever hear the Brooks Brothers riots?
Yeah,
where a bunch of rioters surrounded a ballot counting precinct?
Wear the Hagar helmets, though.
Yeah, right, exactly. They didn't have well, that's why they called it the Brooks Brothers riot. They called it the Brooks Brothers riot because they were dressed in white.
That's the kind of riot you can get behind.
Exactly. But why is it a mystery that you keep losing these battles? Don't you see a pattern here? You see Planned Parenthood unwilling to shake things up inside of the Democratic Party, don't want to cross Democratic leadership. You see Barack Obama promising to codify Roe versus Wade and then saying after his first 100 days, well, we don't want to go there because too many people disagree with us on that. Well, not enough people disagreed with you on that to win the election. You had a 60-seat supermajority in the Senate, majority in the House, and a landslide victory for you, Barack Obama.
And what's really just maddening is nobody's gonna bring that up. Obama's gonna sit there and pontificate about this, and all the libs are gonna sit there and go, oh yes, Barack, please say more. You're a moral leader. This motherfucker is part of the reason that you're in this position now.
He's the biggest reason you're in this, within the last 20 years.
He had the best chance in the last 20 years to codify Roe v. Wade.
Right. He had the ball on the 2-yard line.
And look, even if he tried, And, you know, he got held up by, you know, some weasel like Lieberman or something. Okay. He tried. He didn't. He never tried. He never even tried.
No, he never tried, and no weasel like Lieberman would have been able to hold him up because he was powerful enough where he would have gotten enough Democrats. Even if you had one or two mansions there, you would have had enough Democrats who were too afraid to cross Obama that they would have suspended the filibuster to pass it with less than 60 votes. You cannot tell me that he could not have done that in spring of 2009.
Well,
you cannot tell me that.
Obama's presidency was really the turning point. It was the greatest wasted opportunity in American history, perhaps.
Well, that's what I was talking to.
It was this moment where none of this Trump shit, none of that had to happen if Obama had actually been anything like what he had sold himself as.
Exactly. That was the turning point. Trump was not the turning point.
No.
Obama was the turning point.
The failure of Obama's presidency, because it made people feel, well, won't get fooled again. Fuck it. I allowed this guy to bring out the better angels of my nature. Now I'm going to listen to the devil. I think that was a lot of the feeling. Like, hey, I went with the hope and change. I didn't get anything out of it. Maybe this maniac. And if not, at least it'll drive crazy everyone like Obama and everyone who liked Obama. It'll drive those people crazy. So at the very least, I'll get some satisfaction owning the libs.
Right, exactly. The emotional satisfaction that comes with that.
Yeah.
Is a reward
since
of
apparently electing them is not going to do anything for me anyway.
Right.
So
right.
Why not?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think, you know, I think I might do my first video essay on this. Hey man, you know, identity politics, it's you know, it's funny until Roe v. Wade's getting overturned. Who were the people talking about how it was ageist and sexist to ask Ruth Bader Ginsburg to step down?
Well, that's another thing. Ruth Bader Ginsburg steps down, an absolute no-brainer that she should have stepped down as soon as Barack Obama got sworn in, not even wait till term 2. She should have stepped down immediately. You wouldn't be in this spot right now. Look, I listened to a bunch of material today. Michael Moore put out an emergency podcast. They all say the same things that we've been hearing for decades now, which is, you know, the conservatives are out to control women's bodies, and this is a travesty. And yes. And look, at a certain echelon of conservative politics, I believe that is what it's actually about, right? It is actually about control to Republican leadership.
But to me, that is irrelevant.
I think so too.
We get a lot of, you know, we get shit sometimes from certain quarters. Why don't you talk about the Republicans? Why are you talking about? Listen, man, I don't blame the fox for going in the hen house. It's what a fox is going to do. I blame the sheepdog that let the fox get it. And the Democrats are supposed to be the sheepdog. They're supposed to be the ones protecting that hen house, and they don't do that job. And very often, they've taken a bribe not to do that job. Or very often they choose not to do that job because it's good for their fundraising to actually fail and lose. Dude, I didn't even find out about this from my news crawl. I found out about it because the second this news dropped, I got a fundraising email.
Yep.
That was how I found out the decision had dropped.
Well, that's what our friend Kate texted me. You know, she said, and that's what she said when we interviewed her on the show a few weeks back, which is that these traumatic events are great for fundraising. You fundraise off of these. You raise money off of this. This is why I said they're not useless by accident. They're useless by design. Right. They are the boxer who is paid to lose. This is what people have to understand. You're yelling at the other boxer who's beating the shit out of your guy. Your guy is being paid to throw the fight. They're being paid to throw the fight. The Democrats are being paid to throw the fight. How obvious does it have to be? You have Nancy Pelosi and James Clyburn campaigning for Henry Cuellar right after this leak came out signaling the ruling that was handed down this morning. You had, like I said, Barack Obama, 60-seat supermajority in the Senate, majority in the House, promised to act on this, did not act on this, right? A charitable interpretation of that is that he didn't want to waste any political capital doing this because he felt he would need it all for health care. That's a bullshit excuse. The fact of the matter is you don't get many opportunities as either party to have 60 seats in the Senate.
Right.
When you have a window of opportunity like that, you have to pounce on it if you give a fuck about what you are doing, which he does not.
And if this was such an important issue, and especially given that even some liberal lawyers and legal scholars, like no less a personage than Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Lawrence Tribe, who's as Libby as they get, they both said that Roe sat on weak legal ground in its constitutional arguments. So you always knew this could happen. It was never, this was never Brown v. Board of Ed, right? This was always a shaky argument. It was always a kind of makeshift ruling. So you knew it was vulnerable. You needed to codify it. They needed to treat that with the seriousness it deserved, and they never did. And Obama had the best chance of any president post Roe to do it. Literally, any president post Roe, he had the best chance to do it. They didn't do it.
Right. And look, if you're making excuses for him at this point, you are part of the problem. You're part of the problem. It's completely obvious that you're not getting a solution to this inside of the political system. That's just pretty obvious right now. I mean, they use this Roe v. Wade ruling as a hammer to sort of pound into place anyone who had any reservations about voting Democrat. This is why you have to, at the end of the day, come home and vote blue. And the second it's overturned, what do? They go back and say the exact same thing. The exact same thing. Donate and vote. Donate and vote. It's always the exact same response. And this is not an accident either. And there's a reason, by the way, why I think this works as well as it does with their base, who no doubt are breaking out their checkbooks and getting their debit cards and, putting a donation in to Act Blue as we speak right now.
I do believe, though, what I feel in the air, and we'll see if I'm proven right. Yeah, man. I mean, the really libs are going to do that. There are less of those people now. I hope so. I think this broke something with a lot of what I'm seeing is, look, you got your people who are just dumb as dirt, and they're never going to change their minds. They're emotional cripples who just need to believe in the world that MSNBC tells them exists. They just can't handle any reality outside of that. That's not a lot of people. It's a minority of people. And I have seen over time, the more feckless, the more useless, the more absurd the Democratic Party gets, the more people drop away. The more people drop away, the more people drop away. Because I'm not seeing a reaction to this ruling that's overwhelmingly, that's why we need more Democrats. Like, I'm not seeing a lot of people holding up Democratic leaders and their statements and saying, oh, look at what he or she says about it. I'm not really seeing that. I'm not seeing a lot of it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Not the way, if this had happened 4 years ago, it would have been all, what does Hillary say? I'm not seeing that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I think more people realize that the Democratic Party is a shell game now than did 4 years ago, and certainly than 8 years ago.
Well, there's very little mention of the fact right now that Joe Biden is president with a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House. I mean, this is why we said as soon as the 2020 primary was over, the country is finished. It's it. Bernie was your last best chance to at least stall this trip to hell that we're on. And I think 2020 was probably too late to reverse it, but you could have at least stalled it. You could have at least bought yourself some time. You have this fucking useless piece of garbage president who comes out today and he says, I wish I had this clip prepped. I'll see if I can find it. He's urging the protesters to be peaceful. Be peaceful. Be peaceful. Violence is not speech. Rioting is not speech. Imagine Donald Trump saying that. if a ruling came down that threatened the conservative base? Would Donald Trump say, don't hurt anybody, don't throw a trash can through a store window, everybody behave? No, he would go out there and say what he said on January 6th, which is, you have to be strong. You're never going to take your country back with weakness. You have to be strong. And if some violence did break out and they asked him to condemn it, you know what he would say? He'd say, well, people are very angry. They're very upset. You know, there's a lot of anger out there. You know, that's how you win. That's how you win, you stupid fucking pussy bastards. That's why you lose, and that's why they win, and that's why you're going to continue to eat shit, and you deserve it. Here's a tweet that I thought was fantastic. I retweeted this. This is from Kate Willett, who co-hosts a podcast. Her Twitter name is Childless Feminist Slut with Cats. but her name is Kate Willett, and I think she's actually...
Is she single?
She's good. Judging by that, I would say probably, yeah.
I'll reach out.
Yeah, reach out. Exactly. Not to be this person, but Bernie would be going scorched fucking earth right now. You wanted moderate? You got it, baby. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Stupid fucking asshole Democrat libtard pussies wanted a moderate, a reasonable, down the middle moderate who could unite the country and not make anybody too angry. You got it. You got it. Something like this happens. This is exactly the response of a moderate Democrat.
No.
What the fuck are you complaining about? What are you complaining about? This is what you knew was going to happen the second he put Amy Pancakes on the court. And you're so proud. Oh, so proud. You see all these Occupy Democrat memes. Joe Biden just quietly doing his job. No mean tweets, no blaming, no whining, no tantrums. Well, this is what you got. You got a nice, quiet, status quo, machine politics asshole who is not only not willing, he does not want. He is invested in not disrupting the system to the point where anything could actually be done at this point to save reproductive rights in this country, such as a strike, a general strike, a women's strike. These are the kinds of things. You have to disrupt the system at this point. That is completely obvious. He's not even willing to pack the court. He's not even willing to do that. Right? And so this is, sorry, I will toss to you, but that tweet said it all. This is what you wanted. This is what the Democratic voters have been trained to want, right? Reasonable, moderate, agreeable politicians who work within the system, and this is what you got.
Yeah, and this is really kind of the catch-22 of the whole thing. The people who can afford to make abortion their number one issue, rather than say unions or minimum wage, people for whom that is the defining issue. This is the petite bourgeois. These are the people who have a little too much to rock the boat and not enough to be thought leaders, right? So these are the last people who are going to go get out into the street. These are the libs who are really the undergirding of the pro-choice movement. They're not going to fuck with shit. They're not going to fuck shit up. They're just not going to do it.
Exactly.
They're not going to jeopardize their cushy positions in society by rocking the boat. So,
well, this is the underlying pathology of the liberal movement. And by the way, we're getting some positive feedback on the chat. Thank you. If you do like what we're saying,
thank you very much.
If you like what we're saying, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't, and ring the bell so you get notified when we go live. Also, subscribe to our Substack. It's free. You can join for $5 a month if you want to help us get our food pantries going for the looming shortages. But even if you can't do that, sign up for free, and you'll get everything.
All right,
Nikki King asks if you're single, Russell.
I am. Can you believe it? Can you believe a catch like myself is single? Unreal.
That haircut looks very good, I have to say.
Thank you.
I say this as the Seinfeld line, as George says in Seinfeld. I say this with an unblemished record of staunch heterosexuality. It looks fabulous. It's a good haircut.
I went to a gypsy woman. I asked her to give me a love potion. She said, "Wow, you start with a haircut."
There you go. All
right, so we have Niall here, who is like bombing the chat with his religious fanaticism.
It's all right. Keep it coming, Niall. It's good for engagement. That helps us on the algorithm.
I'm going to start talking in tongues. I'm
What I was saying earlier.
I'm going to start to issue the 7 voices.
It's working, Niall. Keep going. It's working. No, the underlying pathology here is that these liberals and these Democrats have a real desire to believe that the system is salvageable and that the country is salvageable because many of them, like Rosie O'Donnell, have benefited tremendously from this system and have worked very well inside it. And so the idea that the system has to be circumvented in order to achieve these aims is just not something that they are comfortable with. And look, once again, a pattern. Obama saying, well, we don't want to offend the other side by codifying Roe right away. You also have, like I said, this worship of Liz Cheney. Robert Reich, who's one of the better Democrats, right, just put out a ludicrous op-ed a week back suggesting that Liz Cheney be supported by the left for president in 2024 because of her support for the January 6th hearings. Right, and so the point is that
just imagine a Republican writing an article like that about a Democrat. Liz Warren is the leader that we need right now.
Right, exactly. Or even Joe Manchin, right? Even Sinema, even the ones who are doing their bidding for them. Nobody would ever go as far as to say Kristen Sinema for president.
Never.
Right.
Never.
But what this suggests, right? What this hints at, well, I shouldn't even say what it hints at. This is a byproduct of the West Wing culture, the West Wing sort of phenomenon, which is that power struggles can be nice and cordial and formal and polite, right? Power struggles are not nice. Power struggles are not clean. That's why they call it a power struggle, right? When you are competing for positions of power, when you seek to obtain and wield power, you are in a war of sorts. Now, I'm not suggesting that the halls of Congress be turned into a literal bloodbath with actual violence. Of course not. Of course not.
Because really, we've been working really hard to monetize this. So
yeah, right.
Please,
so no,
please,
that's
please
not what I'm saying.
Don't say that.
But what I'm saying is, it is
off camera.
It is a struggle. It is a clash of interests,
right.
And power is won through conflict, not through this sort of, like I said, West Wingified vision of politics where you're very civil and polite to the other side. Or as Barack Obama said, it was a really telling thing when he said the morning after Donald Trump won, which this will be November 9th, 2016, he went out in the Rose Garden, wherever the fuck he was, gave a speech. He says, ultimately, we have to remember we're all on the same side. These elections are intramural, meaning ultimately we're all on the same team. And I'm sorry, we're not all on the same team. It is delusional, pathologically delusional to actually believe that, and extremely dishonest and dangerous to put that out there. Because no, of course we're not all on the same team. We're all on the same team in that, like, we don't want each other necessarily dead. But no, in terms of our worldview, we are opponents.
That's a dicey proposition at this point.
Well, now, yes. Now it's devolved into that. But it's devolved into that because there were not clear ideological lines drawn in years prior. This obsession with accommodating the other side. No, you win the election, you run the country. That's it. You win. You win and you push the agenda that you ran on because you won. That's how you have to do it. There's nothing dangerous about that. What's dangerous is deluding half of the country into believing that ultimately this is just an intramural sport, because you can never beat a movement like the right wing in this country, where you give them an inch they take a mile. Clarence Thomas just gave away the game. Gay marriage, contraception, next, right? You are never, ever, 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 ever going to beat people like that with people like Barack Obama, who is afraid to, in his first 100 days after winning a landslide victory with an absolute mandate, say, no, we're not going to codify Roe now because that would be too divisive because too many people disagree with us. It's not even close. This is ridiculous. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. And the people to blame for this are the people who continually elect and make excuses for these people who put you in this spot, who hamstring you in these fights. That's who's doing it. Like I said, your fighter is throwing the fight. And right. You don't care. And so what do you expect is going to happen?
Well, because it's a party of hall monitors. I mean that's who they are. That's why you can say to these idiots, the parliamentarians said no, and
right.
And they'll go, oh well, what are you gonna do? The parliamentarian. Right. That happened to the Republicans. They fired the parliamentarian. This is the party. This is the party. This is their base. Those are the only people they have left. They're meticulous rule followers. They're people who very much want to be among the kids in class that the teacher pats on the head and says, oh yeah, no, you did everything you were supposed to do today. You're a good boy. You're a good girl. That's all they want. They are the whole Democratic Party are those kinds of kids as adults.
Exactly. And they will be very self-satisfied about the fact that they adhere to these higher principles, right? Right? Oh, well, we're not like the Republicans. We don't fire the parliamentarian when the parliamentarian says we can't raise the minimum wage. That's what Donald Trump would do. That's what the Republicans would do.
Right.
We're better than them. Well, no, you're not better than them. You're not better than them at all. At all. If you were better than them, you'd would do things to help the people you promised to help. That's what a good person would do. That's what a good party would do. That's what a virtuous political movement would do. A virtuous entity does good on behalf of the people it represents. They don't make up bullshit about how they follow rules and the other side doesn't.
Right. Well, that's that's all down the line. And I think what they don't realize is their leaders. Are they, it always goes back to the Upton Sinclair line. A man has an incredible capacity not to see a thing when his living depends on not seeing it. Do these Democrat politicians in their heart of hearts believe it's an intramoral sport? Or is it that they need an excuse to not do anything to keep the money coming in?
Well, of course, they
need an excuse.
Of course, that's it.
Oh, we're trying to be bipartisan. We're trying to, and the kinds of people to whom these figures appeal, to whom figures disgusting pigs like Nancy Pelosi appeal to, are people who were hall monitors in grade school. Like those are the people who are going to listen to Nancy Pelosi talk and go, "Wow, that's inspiring." Those are those people. Those are those people as grown-ups. Those are the only people to whom the leading figures in the Democratic Party are going to appeal. And who does Chuck Schumer appeal to?
Exactly. Here.
Like, who are these people?
One more example. Al Gore disagreed with the Supreme Court in 2000, but he accepted the ruling because he believed in democracy and the peaceful transfer of power. So he resigned, unlike Donald Trump.
And for him,
if he had
refused to accept the results, it wouldn't have been a lie. That would have been a reasonable reaction to that.
Right. Al Gore let the Supreme Court steal an election, not just from him, but from the country and the world, because George Bush won and destroyed the world and appointed to the court the man who wrote this majority opinion. A naked right-wing ideologue, Samuel What did you say? We should name our kid Alito something? You had a joke. Wow, the elite. You made a joke about his name. It was funny. But yeah, that's who ended up on the court thanks to George W. Bush. Thanks to George W. Bush, who has been resurrected, or not resurrected. What am I looking for? Rehabilitated.
That's it. The Democrats, they're just dying.
Resurrected. I was reading too much of Niall's comments there.
They always want to lick the boots of their enemies. I am telling you. I was actually reading something today, not coming from a liberal, but that I would not be surprised me if we get there. I was reading today because somebody was commenting on how Ron DeSantis was leading the polling against Trump in New Hampshire, which honestly doesn't surprise me. I have felt
in New Hampshire that makes sense.
I've felt that DeSantis was being underestimated for a while. You know how we kept saying you're very lucky that you have Trump, because if you get somebody who actually understands how government works, who actually has an ideology and a belief system, you're going to be in trouble. DeSantis is that guy. DeSantis is that guy who actually has a mission and understands how to execute that mission. So it doesn't surprise me he's leading Trump, actually. It would not surprise me if he actually decides to take him on. I know everyone's saying Trump's unbeatable. I don't think so. I think DeSantis would have a shot at that. But that aside, I'm reading this article and the guy was saying what some of us predicted who have watched this trajectory over the years of George W. Bush having been, now they all want to sweep this under the rug. George Bush was Trump to the liberals before.
Well, sure.
When Bush was president, they were as vituperative, as vicious, as hated him, just like they did Trump. They had exactly the same. He's stupid. He's dishonest. He's lying. He's same kind of stuff. They're scary. They're undermining democracy, which was all true. That was all true. Trump amped them up so much because of his tweets. But this article was saying, Trump urged people to get vaccines into their arms. Trump urged gay rights. Trump spoke for gay rights at the Republican National Convention. Once the DeSantises take over, you're going to remember Trump as a moderate. He's going to be remembered as a moderate Republican. I believe that. And with what's going to come later, don't be surprised when you see Ellen dancing with Trump later on.
I mean, I don't think that will happen. I think that's a bit of an exaggeration, although I do agree. I mean, look, I agree that DeSantis would be a more effective executive than Trump, and in that sense would be far more harmful than Trump, to the point where, there might be some pining for the days where at least the Nazi running the country was a total idiot who shot himself in the foot. Most of the time he actually tried to do something. But you're never going to see Trump accepted with these people, because their whole identity now is
I agree with that.
Him.
Like they went too far with it now to back off on it.
Right.
But look, man, DeSantis is president for a while. It won't be overnight. You give it 5-6 years, you'll get that fucking Thomas Friedman think piece about how Trump wasn't so bad. And then once one of the shit libs writes it, then the other ones will start writing it. He'll gradually start to get rehabilitated.
I mean, look, one of the things that, I was talking to somebody who was talking about how, Trump got the ball rolling towards this, theocratic fascist state that's being ushered in. And we already touched on this earlier. I think the failed presidency of Obama is what got this ball rolling. And then Trump was an after effect of that. But, regardless of how you write that history, I would just say, you're going to get 4 more years of Trump, or, if you think he has a reasonable chance of being primaried, perhaps it will be someone else. But I
think it's Trump or DeSantis. I don't think there's a third choice.
All right. Now I still think that
one of those two men Trump is going to be president when the sun comes.
Right. So this is basically halftime.
January 20th.
This is basically halftime, and the reason this is halftime is because, look, this is one other thing that we kept talking about, and this is another liberal pathology, which is that they want people to accept this sort of status quo, which is basically a woke meritocracy, right? Just like, just a woke capitalist state where, like, no, we don't have health care. We give, tax cuts to corporations and things like that. We gut unions, but, we put rainbow flags in the windows and we make Juneteenth a holiday and all this so that we feel like everybody theoretically has a chance to, climb this economic ladder that reaches all the way to the sky because we are capitalists, right? They want so badly to sell that to the public, and by they, I mean this liberal class who has done very, very well inside the system. And so they just get very frustrated and indignant at the people who don't do that, whether they go to candidates like Trump or whether they go to candidates like Sanders and then refuse to, bend the knee and vote Democrat in November. But we've said over and over again that is untenable. You're just begging for a center to hold that can't hold. And if you don't open up space on the left to shift some of that weight, it's all going to go to the right, and you're going to end up right here. And that's exactly what is happening. So everything that we are, and this is what's so frustrating and makes me so angry about this, is because we've been saying this now for the past 7 years. Like, we've been warning of this for 7 years, and it's happening. And even as it's happening, you have a Democrat in the Oval Office, you have a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate. And why is DeSantis or Trump almost certain to be back in January of 2025? Because you remain insistent that everybody subscribe to this woke capitalist utopia that you have in your mind that does not deliver for majorities of people. Right now, if you really cared, if you were really terrified that the Republicans were going to take over and just turn this into full-on Handmaid's Tale, right? No contraception, no gay marriage, right? Nothing. What you would do is you would act with extreme urgency to address the number one issue on Americans' minds, which is not reproductive care. It's not even gun rights. It's inflation. But the word out of the Biden White House is over and over again, we don't really see any end in sight on this. I mean, all of his people are saying, we don't really see gas prices coming down anytime soon.
Well,
right?
no,
we don't see food prices coming down anytime
Keaton,
soon.
He wants
I know,
a
a holiday, a gas tax holiday, which would save you $3 on a 20-gallon tank fill.
Yeah, Sagar was doing the numbers on this. Something like it saved like $20 a month for the average person.
Yeah, right. It's nothing. It's nothing. That's $20 a month, right? So now, not only are they saying that they can't do anything on inflation, they're saying that as they are funneling billions, tens of billions of dollars out the door in weapons to fucking Ukraine, which is doing nothing but enriching defense contractors. Nothing. It's getting more Ukrainians killed every single day that this goes on. Ukraine is surrendering cities now every day. Every time you look at the news now, it gets worse and worse. So this is the response that you have from these people. So how serious are they about preventing this? They're not. They're not going to. They're not doing the things they would need to do.
So Kevin is asking, do you guys think the pro-choice voter segment would take direct action, or would they maybe join a strike effort? The election talk is pointless. They won't strike. They won't do that. They'll march. They'll break the pussy hats out of the closet.
No,
they'll do that.
Well, first of all, thank you for the question, Kevin. Let me just tell you something about this pro-choice voter segment. Kevin, you're a fan of the show, and thank you very much. You're a loyal viewer. So you may have remembered, because we didn't put this out on the podcast feed because it was just too chaotic. That show we did a couple weeks ago where my power was out and Russell's internet was out, right? We did
or as we call it, foreshadowing.
Right, exactly. We tried to do a segment where a new poll came out, a Quinnipiac poll came out, that polled top issues for voters, top issues for Republicans, top issues for Democrats, top issues for independents. And the top issues among Republicans and independents, as we just mentioned, was inflation, right? Top issue for Democrats as of that poll, and that poll was taken, I just deleted it off my computer. I should have left it on. That poll was taken right after the Uvalde shooting. So top issue for Democrats in that poll at 31%, gun violence. Second place at 15%, inflation. Abortion was way down at 5%.
Which is really
stunning. So just a few weeks after the SCOTUS opinion leak that signaled the imminent overturning of Roe versus Wade.
Well, if I offer a theory, the fact that they are the only segment of society that's not that concerned with inflation, and the fact that they have that little concern of abortion, that's connected. Because the inflation is not impacting them because of their financial position, or not impacting them enough for them to rate it as their number one issue. They know they're always going to be able to get an abortion.
I think it's more indicative of how brainwashed they are by the media. The fact that they could be all in a frenzy over this issue as soon as the SCOTUS leak comes out. And then a couple weeks and a couple shootings later, all of a sudden, boom, just, like a cat.
That's
over
true.
Here now.
That's
now
true.
We're looking at guns,
well,
right? Now it's going to be back. Now I guarantee you.
If they were not people who know no matter what, they'll be able to get their abortion on demand, I don't think it would be that low.
Maybe not that low. There may be some truth to that. But the fact that you could have this issue be the rallying cry, this is going to be the thing that drives everybody to the polls in November to vote blue. And then you have a shooting happen, and all of a sudden, okay, now it's guns. I guarantee you this issue will be back at around 30% this week. And then in a few weeks, when something terrible happens on some other issue, that'll be the number one issue. So to your point, Kevin, I don't think the pro-choice voter segment is a serious group of people. I don't. The ones that are make up about 5% of Democrats, as indicated in that poll. There's very, very few people. They're not a powerful bloc. They're not a powerful bloc. They don't they won't really affect much because there is no serious pro-choice voter segment in this country. There hasn't been for 50 years. Democrats have not taken the courts seriously for the last half a century, and the Republicans have. Look, how do you build power as a minoritarian faction inside of a constitutional republic? You do it by directing your efforts at the branch of government that is least accountable to public sentiment, which is the court. So that's what the Republicans have done. They have they're in the minority opinion on guns, so they're going to just pack the courts with people who feel like they do on guns. And what do you know? New York passes a gun law. Supreme Court, nope, strikes that down. That was yesterday. 70% of Americans are pro-choice. What do? We stack the courts with anti-choice judges, and that's how we get our way. And the liberal side has just not taken that threat very seriously because they think, well, in a democracy where majority rules, we'll always be okay as long as we're in the majority on these issues. That's why they bitch about the fucking Electoral College so endlessly, because it drives them crazy that, no, the system actually doesn't work that way. And rather than complain about it every 4 years when you get fucked by the Electoral College, excuse me, I knew it was a mistake to try this without water. My throat's already going. Rather than bitch about it every 4 years, do something about it. Either change the system, i.e. pack the courts, which you're not willing to do, or get ruthless about appointing your people to the courts, which they're also not willing to do. And so once again, how did you expect this would go? That's my main question. What did you expect would happen?
All right, checking in on the chat. Thank you very much, Sam. And Nikki, that's the point I was just going to make. It's just as long as blue
subscribe
states
before you
make
leave,
sure,
Sam. Very important.
As long as blue states make sure they can get abortion, life will continue as if there was no change. Okay, this is where the Republicans, in the end, have had more political insight, than their enemies, certainly. But they're not wrong about this not really hurting them for this reason. Look, if it were an abortion ban, if it were a nationwide abortion ban, that would be different. But how are they going to get hurt by throwing this back to the states? Because the states that make it illegal are states where the majority of people are going to be anti-abortion. Right. And the states where the majority are for abortion, they're going to double down on abortion. So how is this going to hurt them politically?
I mean, it might hurt them in a few Senate races. And I've said, especially because the Senate map does favor Democrats this year, this is the 2016 Senate map, which favored Democrats. States like Pennsylvania, Ohio, now Georgia is more purple, right? Arizona is more purple. Because the Republicans have nominated just like total fucking whack jobs like Dr. Oz, Herschel Walker. I mean, it's really hard to believe that Herschel Walker...
I'm gonna sack inflation.
Exactly. I mean, there is a chance because of that the Democrats might hold the Senate and even expand their numbers in the Senate. Now, they're not going to win the House. They are going to lose probably, I would say, dozens of seats in the House, if not scores of seats in the House. But, look, because the Senate map does favor them this year, and because this issue has the potential to animate the Democratic base in big cities like Atlanta, Philadelphia, Cleveland, right? There's a chance that combination of factors might translate to some Senate wins where they may actually hold the Senate. I said that in a previous show. In terms of like the overall political trajectory and whatever consequences that the Republicans are going to pay for this, look, one other reason why the Republicans win is because they don't worry about what the political consequences are going to be. They have an agenda. They fight for it. They pass it. They get it done. And they don't look at a poll and say, oh no, 90% of Americans want background checks for gun purchases. I guess we better be reasonable on this so we don't offend them, right? The way Barack Obama did with the FOCA. No, they don't worry about that. They have an agenda, they drive it, and that's how they win.
Well, they're going on the Rove theory, which is true. Karl Rove in politics was basically what Fox News was in media. Fox News proved that it's a better business model to feed a very dedicated fan base exactly what they want than it is to try to appeal to everybody by moderating your tone. Rove figured that out in politics.
Well,
that
here's
the
why
logic
that works.
had always been to appeal to the center. Rove said, no. Appeal to the crazy people because they vote. The crazy people vote. Most people don't even vote. Especially people with moderate politics.
That's where the numbers start to make sense. You say, well, how could you oppose background checks for gun purchases when only 10% of the American people oppose background checks for gun purchases? Well, that 10% of the American people is 10% of 350 million people. Here's where it gets interesting. Less than half of those 350 million people vote. So if you cater to 10% of the people who are passionate to a crazy degree about this one topic, all those 10% are going to vote, which means you're not actually appealing to 10% of the electorate. You're appealing to 10% of the people, but you're appealing to at least 20% of the voting public because less than half the people vote. So 10% is actually 20% plus.
Right.
And before you know it, you add a couple of those fringe issues together like anti-abortion politics, right? Only 3 in 10 Americans are vehemently pro-life, but guess what? You do their bidding, those 3 in 10 Americans vote, and now that's not just 30% of the voting public, that becomes 40 to 45% of the voting public. There's some overlap with the gun people, obviously, but as you can see, you start crunching these numbers, now you're getting close to 50%.
Right.
You're not all the way at 50%, but you don't have to be because we have an electoral college and we have a Senate, which allows you to pack the courts, which are not responsive to electoral outcomes at all. And so before you know it, you got yourself a pretty fucking powerful party, even though you're not at 50% support in the public, and that's how you win inside this system.
Well,
you can either change this system or get good at playing within it. The Democrats are willing to do neither. The Democrats are willing to sit around and bitch about how the Electoral College is rigged against them, and we have the Senate this, and the court this, and SCOTUS, it's so unfair, and send out fundraising blasts every time the system fucks you. That's all they're willing to do. That's all they're willing to do. And so once again, I know I'm broken record. How else did you expect this would turn out?
Well, pre Karl Rove, there was basically the Republican establishment, which was in control at that time in a way that they're not now. They were playing games with the Christian right. Like Reagan recognized that there was this huge potential untapped voter base, and he basically gave them the Republican Party, made this unholy marriage. But they didn't really mean it. I mean, Reagan, who knows? He might have, but H.W. Bush, he definitely he just gave lip service to the pro-choice thing. He went along with the game. He realized we got to keep these people in the tent,
right? But and you know what else he did? He lost.
This is what I was getting to. He wasn't serious about it, and the evangelicals saw that, and they were pissed off, and they weren't like Democrats. Oh, well, let's just shut up and sit down, and eventually we'll get no.
No, Ross Perot, baby.
No, exactly. And they kept working at the local level and at the state level and just backing people who just appealed to them until eventually Rove went all in on let's actually give these people what they want. And that's really before the Republican Party had basically just played games with that constituency. You know, exactly what the Democrats do to their base. That's what they used to do to that portion of their base. Rove was the one who said, no. You really want to gin these people up? Do the things they want you to do. And that was a complete sea change in the way that the Republican Party functioned.
They won the 2004 election, which was right after 9/11, the Iraq War, all this horrible strife going on in the world. You know where I'm going with this, Russell. They won that election on gay marriage. Karl Rove knew that Bush was unpopular, Bush was very vulnerable, and they were especially worried about the state of Ohio. They thought Bush could lose Ohio, and Ohio is very important. That election was very, very tight. Ohio was the difference maker. Had Kerry won Ohio, he'd have won. So what Karl Rove said to do is say, okay, well, we need in Ohio, because Bush can't win on the war record and stuff like that, we have to put a ballot measure in Ohio, a referendum on gay marriage. And the rationale behind that was that Christian conservatives are not going to be thrilled about going out and voting for George Bush again, but they'll show up to vote no on gay marriage. And while they're there, they're going to flip the lever for George W. Bush. And that's exactly what happened. He won the state by about 100,000 votes. Questionable. There was actually some questionable numbers in that race. But as the tally stands, he won that race very, very narrowly.
They pulled a lot of shenanigans in Ohio.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't. I don't think he fairly won either of those races.
No, you had like 8-hour lines in the cities. You had no way to vote in the suburbs. Like, you know, just classic shit, vote rigging shit. That is a good opportunity to get into a tweet I wanted to talk about, because you mentioned before you don't know which of these groups to donate to.
Yep, I'll bring it up. Go ahead.
And I mentioned I blame this outcome partly on identity politics and some of the genius moves that the left, or I hesitate to say the left, the liberals have made over the years, like nominating Hillary Clinton and shouting down anyone who said, my God, she's the most unpopular politician in the country, save Trump. That's a fucking suicide mission. You're a sexist. You're a sexist. Okay, so now here we are. Okay, now you got what you wanted. You got Hillary, and as a result, you got Trump. You kept Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You fought against that sexism and ageism, and now you lost Rome. Okay, so 2 days before this ruling comes down, and everyone knows this ruling is coming down. Everyone knows this is about to happen. This is what NARAL tweets out. This is what they feel they really need to be telling people right now.
Go ahead, read it.
If your feminism doesn't include trans women and girls, it's, not feminism. If your feminism doesn't understand how anti-trans policies disproportionately impact BIPOC folk, particularly Black trans women and girls, it's not feminism. Okay, that's 2 days before this ruling comes down. Everyone knows this ruling is coming down this week. This is what one of the leading pro-choice organizations
NARAL,
in
Pro-Choice
America decides to tweet out. They decide to put out this, to open up this extremely divisive conversation about what constitutes feminism. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret, and you can quite clearly see this if you go and you look at the overwhelmingly negative responses to that tweet. A lot of the kind of women who are vehemently pro-choice, they're TERFs. They're TERFs. They don't really believe that trans women are women. Go read the responses to that thread, which presumably are largely from people who follow NARAL, and they're all saying it's not feminism to tell me what my feminism is. It's not that. All of it is like that. How dare you tell me what feminism is? No matter what you believe about that statement, it's really beside the point. It's really irrelevant. Why, at a moment when you really need to unite all the forces together, why do you choose to put out this grad school bullshit, fucking virtue signaling nonsense, which it particularly something that's so exclusionary, that's so, hey, if you don't believe what I believe about these issues, you're not a real feminist. Is this really the moment that you feel you want to have that fight 2 days before the Supreme Court is about to strike down Roe v. Wade? That now this is when you want to start
you fire off
excommunicating all the TERFs.
Right, exactly. Now's when you want to. Now's when you want to fire off a tweet that just alienates like 75% of the people who might be inclined to write a check to you in the wake of this SCOTUS ruling coming down.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Everyone's been terrorized into silence, but I promise you, the donor base for NARAL, the majority of them do not agree with that statement. The majority of them do not feel that their issues and trans issues are the same issues. And if you read through the responses to that tweet, you can see that very clearly. That is, they can beat up on J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling speaking for a lot of women who have spent decades as feminists who are not now all of a sudden going to be told that they're not women, or that women don't exist, or that it's a construct. Like, how do you think those women really feel about that?
Also, on this issue, too, it's especially personal because, look, if you're born a male and you want to become a woman and you're mature enough to make that call for yourself and that's how you identify, fine. God bless. But someone born a male is not going to be forced to carry a baby to term when they're 17 years old.
That a lot of the respondents
made. A cisgendered woman could find themselves in that position because they're born with the parts that would put them in that situation.
Right. Exactly.
And so your experiences are not even remotely similar in that sense.
One of them actually put it straight out, said, please explain to me what issues we have in common. Contraception, unwanted pregnancy. Please explain to me where we have a common struggle here.
Right.
Bill Maher brought that up also in a monologue he did a couple weeks ago. And look, he's
going to be on in an hour. We'll have some new material by Sunday.
we just excoriated Bill Maher in one of our videos. We're not fans, but once in a while he has something worthwhile to say. And he brought up how you had...
Hey, not a fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene either. She had something worthwhile to say last week.
Sure, so, exactly.
Call it down the middle. Sorry, go
exactly. Ahead. He brought up that, when that abortion ruling first leaked, you had, trans people put out a statement, an organization about how, this decision will impact the trans community. And Bill Maher was like, really? Like, you can't give that one to women? Not everything is about you. Right. Not everything impacts you. Like, come on. This is where...
Well, it's unserious. It's unserious.
It's unserious, and I feel like
winning.
This is a big part of how we got here.
Right, of course.
Idiots like this running organizations that at this moment should be laser focused on gathering together everyone who's pro-choice, trans, cis, gay, straight, everybody. Right now, they should be pulling them together. You're sending out this condescending, virtue signaling, academic jargon bullshit 2 days before they repeal Roe. The week everyone knows they're going to do it this week, and that's what you choose to put out there. You deserve to lose at that point. I mean, aside that feckless, that's stupid, that ridiculous. Like, it's just the gang that couldn't shoot straight. It's amazing to me that somebody in charge of that Twitter account thought that was the moment. Yeah, no, this is the moment. I really need to make that kind of a statement to all of these women who, a lot of them are in their 60s and 70s and were on the front lines of fighting for Roe before it was passed. I'm going to tell them they're not feminists.
Yeah, exactly. This. I mean, these are high stakes tweets here. I mean, every once in a while I'll fire off an insensitive joke on our Twitter because we only got like 1,600 followers. All right, how much harm could it do, right?
Yeah. You never know, man. A lot of people thought that. Woke up the next morning canceled.
Well, the point is, I'm in a better spot to take a chance than Nayrol. Nayrol here, I'm looking at it right now, 222,000 followers. That's a lot of people that you reach with that shit, and yeah, and I mean, you're right. It could do serious harm to your coalition. Why? It's just an unnecessary wedge to drive right through the heart of your movement at the worst possible time you could divide your ranks.
Well, that's typical of this portion of the left that is very visible, as I keep saying, whenever this subject comes up, someone at some point has to do a William F. Buckley and the John Birch Society with this faction. It is going to have to happen at some point. What's going to be much more difficult than it was for Buckley, because the people who are most fire-breathing about these kinds of subjects are elites. They are products of elite schools. They have elite jobs. It wasn't as hard for Buckley to excommunicate the John Birch Society as it will be to excommunicate this portion of the left. But it must be done if you ever want to wield political power. These people make it impossible to win a sustainable majority.
Yeah, and as today's developments prove, you're running out of time. Not much time.
Right.
All right, I think that's everything. We got another show coming up on Sunday, so I think that pretty much does it for now. What do you think?
This was the only thing I do want to throw in as a lifelong sci-fi geek is I have long said that the future, was either going to be the Star Trek future. We get over our differences and have a world based on exploration and curiosity, or we're going to have a world like the world in Alien, where corporations basically have their own military and there doesn't seem to be any real government. Basically, corporations are government. But it turns out there was a third dark horse candidate that called the future right, and I think people are going to have to take a second look at that movie. Everyone considered it kind of campy and a letdown, but the sequel to Escape from New York, Escape from LA, presents a future America which is very much a fascist Christian theocracy. And wow, they called it. Who knew? That was the most accurate vision of the American future of the various sci-fi dystopia films. And weirdly enough, you would think there'd be a lot of movies that would project that future for America, because it's not that, hard to imagine. Can you think of any others besides Escape from LA?
No, and I think
obviously a Handmaid's
well, Handmaid's Tale, yeah, but that's but that's I mean, one of the reasons I was going to say, I mean, this is sort of connected, is I think, that might be too politically divisive for a movie that wants a mass audience to say oh, okay, here, in 50 years the Christian right's going to take over, and isn't that horrible? Well, there goes 30% of your box office,
Yeah.
That would be my guess.
Escape from LA though. Yeah. I mean, so you think that's why they don't make more like that?
That would be my guess. That'd be my guess. You know,
Maybe.
if I had to venture a guess, I mean, I'm not sure.
But everyone, go back and watch Escape from LA. It has some absolutely ridiculous, campy scenes. It's a good time. But now it's also, I would say, a preview of the future.
Well, there you go. All right, everybody. I put the link to our Patreon there if you'd like to support the show for as little as $5 a month. But even if you can't do that, please subscribe to our Substack. Here, I'm going to throw the Substack in the chat.
After the revolution, Kevin. All right, I'll check it out. I'm an avid reader.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, it's a book.
There's our Substack, our Patreon. But while you're here, hit the like button. So that this stream gets out there, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. This is the best place to find us, and our audio podcast. We have an audio podcast that goes out. We make audio versions of almost all of our live streams. I will do one for this one, probably be up tomorrow. You can subscribe on any major podcast player. There's the link to all of our podcast links, Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. All right, everybody. That's all for us. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Be safe. Be well. See you all next time. We'll see you Sunday. We do live streams every Sunday night, 7 p.m. here on this YouTube channel. This is obviously a special one given the tumultuous events of the day, but we have a regularly scheduled show Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll be here then. We'll see you guys then, hopefully. Thank you very much for watching. This was a great chat and a great talk. Have a good night, everybody. See you next time. All right, we're out. That was a good one.